In life, there are certain secrets you never share, and there's one you want to tell but can't. Sometimes, by the time you spill the beans, it's too late. Daisy and her husband had just moved into a new house in the suburbs. They were newlyweds. Everything was fresh. The house, their married life. Daisy felt a mix of nervousness and excitement as she navigated this new chapter. It took a week for Daisy and David to settle into their new home, arranging furniture and whatnot. Daisy was happy, but something troubled her. She felt like she was being watched, and at times she heard someone humming in the room next to their bedroom. On the 19th day in the house, with David away on a business trip for 2 days, leaving Daisy alone, she awoke late, her body sluggish from a fever. As she prepared her morning coffee in the kitchen, a nagging thought crossed her mind. She hadn't watered the garden. Yet, to her surprise, the garden was already watered. Confusion crept in as she returned to the kitchen, pondering to herself who could have watered all the plants. Suddenly, a sense of someone's presence gripped her. Jerking her head towards the source, she asserted sternly, "Whoever you are, this is my home. You don't belong here. Go back where you came from." In the late afternoon, after a delightful lunch, Daisy lounged on the couch, engrossed in the TV show. Her attention was fully absorbed by the TV show playing before her. However, the tranquility was shattered when the dialogue on screen seemed to mimic her earlier conversation in the house, as if the television itself was responding to her. "No one disturbed you, nor did anything, and you told me to get out from the house. How dare you? Now watch what comes next and what I will do to you." The words echoed ominously, filling the room with an unsettling tension. Despite her usual skepticism regarding the supernatural, Daisy couldn't suppress the unease creeping up her spine. She couldn't shake the eerie sensation that someone or something was speaking from behind her. She switches off the TV and heads to her bedroom for a nap. Daisy, a former singer, finds solace in music and often listens to it before sleeping. The next morning, she awakens feeling refreshed, the fever having subsided. Everything seems to have returned to normal. The house boasts a small studio, tailored for her to record songs whenever she feels her singing abilities have faltered since her vocal cord operation. Despite this, Daisy still enjoys practicing her vocals from time to time. One fateful day, Daisy was in her studio practicing her high-pitched singing vocals when she suddenly heard a female voice humming from the next room, harmonizing with her melody. She began to search every room but found no one else present except herself. Just then, a clap of thunder echoed outside, signaling an impending storm. Daisy stepped out onto the porch to check the weather. The sky was dark and ominous, with strong winds suggesting heavy rain and thunderstorms on the horizon. Early that morning, Daisy packed a bunch of used clothes in a box for donation and placed it beside the garden. However, a strong gust of wind knocked the box over, scattering the clothes across the porch and garden. One of her sheath dresses began to fly in the wind. As Daisy stood on the porch, trying to make sense of the situation, the dress seemed to be propelled by an unseen force, heading straight towards an invisible presence. The clothes that stuck seemed to form a silhouette resembling someone's face, an eerie sight that sent shivers down Daisy's spine. She attempted to grasp the dress, but suddenly felt a sensation as if a human hand brushed against hers. Startled, she let go of the dress and hurried back inside the house. Taking a deep breath, she settled herself in the living room. As she glanced towards the bedroom, her eyes widened in horror. There, before her, lay the same dress that moments ago should have been outside. Terrified, she jumped up from her seat and cautiously peeked out the door to check if the dress was still there outside. To her astonishment, The dress lay on the porch once more. Perplexed, she muttered to herself, "If the dress is still outside on the porch, whose dress is in my bedroom?" Suddenly overcome by a surge of determination, Daisy seized the dress and marched towards the kitchen. Snatching up a lighter, she ignited the fabric, watching as flames consumed it. As the dress burned, she was startled by hysterical laughter echoing from behind her. The next day, David returned from his business trip. Daisy chose not to mention anything about the strange occurrences in the house to David. She feared he, like everyone else, would dismiss her as crazy or hallucinating. That's why she kept silent. As the days passed, one night, as she slept deeply, Daisy was abruptly awakened when her blanket was pulled down. Startled, she pulled it back up and tried to return to sleep, only for it to be pulled down again. Frustrated, Daisy grew angry and began to tug forcefully at the blanket until it tore off completely. Without hesitation, she rose from the bed, grabbed the torn blanket, and hurled it outside into the garden. The next morning, Daisy opened her eyes to find that David had already left for the office. As she attempted to rise from the bed, she was met with a sharp pang of pain coursing through her body, leaving her feeling achy and sore. Glancing around, she noticed the blanket lying tattered on the bed beside her. In the evening, David returned home from the office, exhausted from his day's work. He headed straight to the bathroom for a refreshing shower. As he emerged from the washroom, he found Daisy standing in front of the door. "I have something important to tell you," she said. David smiled and asked, "What's going on? Is everything okay with the new house?" The next words from Daisy sent shivers down his spine. "The marriage isn't working anymore. I've been in contact with my ex, and I slept with him while you were away," she confessed. David's emotions swirled into a mix of sadness and anger. He stormed into the living room, shouting, "Get out of the house right now and never show your face again," driven by his emotions. He stood there, the silence broken by Daisy's voice, not from the hallway, but from the kitchen. "Why are you shouting, honey? Is everything all right?" she asked innocently. Confused and surprised, David went straight to the kitchen and asked Daisy if it was true what she had just said in the hallway about keeping in touch with her ex. Before Daisy could reply, she heard a mocking whisper in her ear. "Well, now you see what I can do." Daisy attempted to speak. "There is something wrong with," but before she could finish her sentence, she felt as though someone was strangling her. She gagged, struggling to speak again, but her attempts were futile. Desperate, she searched for a piece of paper and a pen to write down her thoughts, but none were in sight. Then she heard the whisper again. "Even if you try thousands of times, you will fail to tell anybody." Days passed, and David continued to embark on his business trips periodically. Daisy kept herself occupied with various tasks, and it seemed as though everything had returned to normal. One fateful day, there was a knock on the door, and Daisy opened it to find the mailman standing there. He handed her a letter, and she took it before retreating into the house. As soon as she began to read the letter, the house seemed to come alive. Chairs rocked on their own, doors slammed open and shut, and a loud cry echoed from another room. Daisy hurriedly sat down at the table, attempting to write something on a piece of paper and call 911, but the call was abruptly disconnected. The next day, David returned from his business trip. As he approached the front door, he noticed police officers scattered throughout the house. A sinking feeling settled in as he realized that something was terribly wrong. It became apparent that the police were waiting for him to deliver devastating news. It turned out that Daisy had taken her own life the day before. Daisy was David's second wife, and it was revealed that David had been married before. He was an abusive husband, which ultimately led to the divorce of his first wife. Tragically, his first wife took her own life. David was still under investigation for his actions. The letter Daisy received that day turned out to be court papers, a settlement of his ongoing investigation, and a victory letter for his case. Before taking her own life, Daisy wrote on a piece of paper, "I have now discovered the truth about my husband, and it is painful. I can't bear it any longer. People might think I'm crazy, but I believe that the spirit haunting this house is none other than his first wife. I blame only David for lying to me and keeping secrets. He is the one who has ultimately caused my demise." 3 years have passed, and David finds himself serving a life sentence in prison. Meanwhile, the house stands empty, its once lively halls now silent and devoid of life. Occasionally, neighbors claim to hear a woman crying late at night. The story serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of deceit, abuse, and the importance of honesty and trust in relationships. Ultimately, it highlights the importance of recognizing and confronting one's demons, both past and present, to prevent further harm and to pave the way for healing and redemption. As the neighbors continue to hear the haunting cries of a woman late at night, it serves as a reminder that the past can never truly be buried until justice and truth prevail, bringing closure to those left behind.